Let's talk about value. Not just the sticker price of something, but what you actually get in return. Because in Australia, there are towns where the cost of living has shot through the roof, but the lifestyle still stuck in the basement. We're talking about places where locals are quietly packing up and heading elsewhere, where newcomers roll in wide-eyed and optimistic, only to be blindsided by $9 loaves of sourdough and the harsh reality that the nearest doctor is a 4-hour drive away. The dream of a balanced, affordable Aussie lifestyle. In some towns, it's packed its bags and left. Today, we're diving deep into Australian towns where the cost of living simply isn't worth it anymore. Some will surprise you. These aren't just forgotten mining towns or sun-scorched outposts in the middle of nowhere. Some of them are Australia's most iconic lifestyle destinations, places that have become victims of their own Instagram fame. Let's start with the truth that more Australians are waking up to. High cost doesn't always mean high quality. If you're paying Sydney-style prices in a town with no jobs, unreliable internet, dodgy infrastructure, and a Woolies that closes at 6 p.m., you have to ask, what exactly are you paying for? A nice view? A cafe that does oat milk lattes with turmeric foam? At some point, it's not value. It's just expensive scenery. 1. Byron Bay. Let's begin with perhaps the most symbolic example, Byron Bay. Once a barefoot surf town with bohemian charm and more dreadlocks than traffic lights, Byron has transformed into one of the most expensive regional towns in Australia. According to CoreLogic, the median house price now hovers around $2 million, rivaling inner-city Sydney, but with far fewer job opportunities and a lot more kombucha. Here's the twist. Wages haven't followed suit. The local economy still runs on tourism, hospitality, and seasonal gigs. A cafe worker pulling lattes for $28 an hour might be handing them to someone who bought their third holiday home with crypto. The gap between income and house prices? Astronomical. Rent's no better. A modest two-bedder can cost $800 to $1,200 a week, if you're lucky enough to find one that hasn't been converted into a yoga-themed Airbnb. And what do you get for your troubles? Congested roads, limited rentals, and a Woolies car park that resembles a UFC match at peak hour. Food prices? Think gourmet, even when it's just eggs and bread. Yes, the beach is still stunning. But unless you're minted, living in Byron feels less like a dream and more like a very expensive mirage. 2. Broome. Let's head to Broome, where the beaches are stunning, the sunsets are legendary, and the groceries might just give you a minor heart attack. Broome is one of the most isolated towns in Australia. The nearest major city is Perth, over 2,000 kilometers away. That's not a road trip, that's a survival expedition. And isolation comes at a cost. Literally. Groceries, fuel, building supplies, pretty much anything that isn't locally made is marked up like it's part of a luxury import tax. A liter of milk? Around $3.50. Fuel? Often well over $2.30 per liter. Suddenly walking everywhere doesn't sound so bad. But the real kicker? Jobs are few and far between. The economy leans heavily on tourism and pearling, both of which are seasonal and unpredictable. So unless you're into oyster diving or selling handmade sarongs to cruise ship tourists, options are limited. Utilities are pricey, specialist medical care is a plane ride away, and during the wet season, tourism disappears, along with most casual work. Yes, Broome is breathtaking. But unless you're financially waterproof, living here can feel like paying 5-star resort prices for a 2-star lifestyle with no room service. 3. Alice Springs. Now let's talk about Alice Springs, the heart of the outback. It's got red dirt, stunning landscapes, and a rich cultural history. But sadly, it's also got sky-high living costs and a long list of challenges. First up, housing. According to NT Shelter, over 40% of renters in Alice are experiencing rental stress, paying more than a third of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. Which is kind of a problem when the local job market isn't exactly overflowing with 6-figure gigs. Crime rates are high, public infrastructure is stretched, and social issues are complex and persistent. You might move there for the outback charm, but no one dreams of being kept up at night by helicopters and street fights, unless you're filming a documentary. Groceries aren't cheap either. Freight costs mean your weekly shop could rival a fine dining bill, and specialist healthcare? That's a flight to Darwin or Adelaide, assuming the plane's not delayed. Alice Springs should be affordable given the challenges. But instead, it's like life turned up the difficulty setting and raised the rent. Unless you're deeply committed to outback living, you might find your budget and your patience pushed to the edge. 4. Noosa. Let's head to Noosa, where the beaches are pristine, the lattes are organic, and the house prices make you question your entire life. Noosa has become the crown jewel of Queensland's coast. It's polished, pretty, and packed with day spas, art galleries, and people named Brett who work remotely in crypto. But behind the boutique charm lies a brutal reality. The cost of living here is pure luxury, with none of the luxury income. The median house price in Noosa Heads has soared to around $1.7 million. Even a pokey little unit with zero views and questionable plumbing can go for $900,000. Renting? That'll be $700 to $1,200 a week, if you can find a place not already booked solid on Airbnb for 6 months. And while the real estate screams millionaire lifestyle, the job market whispers minimum wage. Most roles are in tourism, retail, or aged care. So unless you own a Pilates studio or inherited property from your great-aunt, making ends meet is a daily workout. Essential workers are priced out, young families move away, and even retirees are starting to wonder if they've accidentally downsized into financial stress. Yes, it's beautiful, but Noosa's charm comes with a steep price tag, and it doesn't include parking. 5. Margaret River. Where the wine flows freely, the surf's always up, and the cost of living politely slaps you in the face. This town was once the secret sauce of WA, peaceful, scenic, and slightly quirky. But now, it's become a full-blown lifestyle brand. With the median house price pushing over $800,000, this chill regional town is now less about finding balance and more about finding a second job. And rentals? Good luck. Vacancy rates are sitting at rock bottom. And when you do spot something, it's likely $600 to $700 a week. And yes, that's for a modest home, not a vineyard estate. The explosion of short-term holiday lets has vacuumed up long-term housing stock, leaving locals scrambling and newcomers couch surfing with their sourdough starter kits. Jobs here are mostly seasonal: hospitality, wine tours, and grape picking. Not exactly high-paying and certainly not enough to keep pace with rising costs. Even essentials like fuel and groceries are marked up, thanks to Margaret River's distance from Perth. And if you don't drive, congratulations, you're stranded. It's still a great weekend getaway. But full-time living? Unless you moonlight as a sommelier influencer hybrid, you'll need deep pockets and an even deeper sense of financial denial. 6. Airlie Beach. Now let's talk about Airlie Beach, the glossy gateway to the Whitsundays, where palm trees sway, tourists clink cocktails, and locals quietly check their bank balance before buying lettuce. On the surface, it's paradise, the kind of place that makes you want to quit your job and start fresh. But once you unpack your bags, reality sets in. And it's wearing board shorts and asking $700 a week for a one-bedroom flat. Airlie's economy runs almost entirely on tourism and hospitality, which means low wages and seasonal work. Unless you're piloting reef tours or selling paddleboards, you're probably earning just enough to keep living in Airlie Beach. Rental prices are eye-watering thanks to the rise of holiday lets. Airbnb has chewed through the long-term rental market, and locals now compete with tourists for places to live. Spoiler: the tourists usually win. Groceries are expensive, internet is patchy, medical services are limited, and the nearest city with proper infrastructure? A long drive, assuming the roads aren't flooded. Sure, the views are spectacular, but as many locals have realized, you can't pay your electricity bill with turquoise water and sea breezes. Great for a holiday, risky as a permanent address. 7. Fremantle. Fremantle, or Freo if you're feeling local, is Perth's artsy cousin, the one who drinks small-batch gin, rides a vintage bike, and casually drops $22 on brunch without blinking. It's creative, coastal, and charming, until you check the price tag. The median house price in Freo is brushing up against $1 million, and even a modest unit can cost $600,000 or more. Rent? You're looking at $700 to $1,000 a week, and that's not even waterfront. Cafes are great, but unless you're being paid in roasted coffee beans, the cost of living is hard to swallow. A dinner out for two at a mid-range spot can easily cost $150, and that's before you've even touched dessert. Fremantle's economy isn't exactly bursting with high-paying jobs either. Many residents commute to Perth's CBD, which adds transport costs and time, especially if you're one of the dreamers trying to survive without a car. And while Freo oozes personality, infrastructure hasn't kept up with its price hikes. Schools are full, parking is a blood sport, and the housing market has turned the once accessible creative hub into an exclusive postcode. It's still got soul, But unless you've got a generous salary or an inheritance, living in Fremantle can feel like trying to afford a champagne life on a craft beer budget. So why are these towns becoming unaffordable? What exactly turned our chilled-out coastal gems and charming inland escapes into high-cost postcode traps? Well, it's a perfect storm of modern Aussie madness. First, we've got the tree changer invasion. City dwellers fleeing cramped apartments and weekday traffic in favor of coastal serenity and backyard chickens. They bring their city salaries, high expectations, and a willingness to pay top dollar for anything with a deck and ocean view. Local prices? Up they go. Then there's the Airbnb effect. More and more homes are being turned into holiday rentals. Great for tourists, terrible for locals trying to find a rental that isn't decked out in nautical decor and booked through to 2026. Add to that the investor gold rush. A lot of these towns are no longer seen as communities. They're real estate plays. Homes sit empty, flipped for a quick buck, while actual residents struggle to stay put. Meanwhile, wages have flatlined. Prices have climbed Mount Kosciuszko. And in between is the average worker clutching their payslip and wondering how bread got so expensive. Oh, and don't forget infrastructure. Hospitals, schools, transport, even decent Wi-Fi, they've all been left behind like last year's budget. Growth came, but the planning didn't. The result? Australians are paying more for less. Less access, less opportunity, less community. But hey, at least the property brochures still look nice. When essential workers can't afford to live in the towns they serve, communities break down. When families are pushed out because their landlord converted the home into a holiday rental, local schools lose students, local sports teams fold, shops shut down. This isn't just about economics. It's about identity, continuity, stability. And when towns become hollowed-out shells, beautiful on the outside but unsustainable on the inside, we all lose something deeper than just housing. We lose the soul of the place. So where is still worth it? There are still Australian towns offering good value, where the cost of living aligns with quality of life. But they're becoming harder to find. Places like Bendigo, Toowoomba, or Launceston still strike a balance, for now. But if current trends continue, they could follow the same path. The truth is, affordability isn't just a matter of price. It's a question of what you get for what you pay. And too many towns in Australia are failing that test. Byron Bay is not a working-class paradise anymore. Noosa is not a budget-friendly beach haven. Alice Springs is not an affordable inland refuge. These towns may still look like postcards, but for many Australians, the cost of living in them simply isn't worth it, financially, emotionally, or practically. Until we address housing speculation, underinvestment, and the widening gap between income and expenses, more towns will slip into this category. And the great Australian dream of affordable regional living will become just that, a dream. Thanks for watching.